saw this book, I didn't know that's what they were called. If I'm honest.
Yeah, it's the collective name for the custodes and sort of all the miscellaneous stuff that doesn't really fit into any other book. I think it was referred to that at the end of 8th edition, maybe. Not 8th edition, 7th edition.
Again, pictures, what they're showing, pretty cool. Trying to get a land raider into your army there by the looks of it, saying please use it. So we've got the start, and by the looks of it, they're calling them the shield hosts. Shall I let you take the lead on this, Sam?
So yeah, basically the shield hosts are sort of similar to your legions. So this section's basically saying that if you have an all Adeptus Custode detachment, you can dedicate it to one of the, I think, 5 shield hosts, which basically lets you. It doesn't give you any in-game benefits for being that detachment. But what it does do is unlocks a warlord trait, a relic, and a specific stratagem to each of the shield hosts.
I can't hear you guys at all.
No, I can't hear Jason.
Can you hear me? Sorry, my mic's.
Can hear you again now.
There might have been a big long pause there.
So
I need to edit it out later.
If an army is led by custodians, you can give it one. That's pretty cool. The warlord traits. So if there is a shield host model as your warlord, you can give it the standard blurb. They're really saying like if he's this, and this, you can do this, and if you're the shield host, you can use the stratagems based on in that detachment. So it's the standard blurb that they stick in every single book, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we've got here Shadow Keepers. So this is more locked around the new book, isn't it? The same as all the other stuff.
Yeah, so the Shadow Keepers and the Solar Watch, I believe, are 2 that they have colour schemes for in the actual Custodes book, which is the ones that are in the all black armour and the ones that are in the sort of like creamy white armour.
Okay.
And in the lore, they do very, very different things. One of them's based around like void warfare, and one of them, which is the Shadow Keepers, is literally supposed to be the ones that sort of go and pick up all the big bad characters in the sort of galaxy and bring them back to Terra and keep them in the dungeons.
We'll go because by the looks of it, there's like a shield host set, and we can go for each one at a time.
Yeah.
So when resolving it, so this is a Shadow Keeper's warlord trait called Lock Warden.
You've got it again, Jason.
This warlord can subtract 1 from the hit roll when resolving an attack made by this warlord against an enemy character unit. Subtract 1 from the saving throw. So he gets -1, and he gets a plus. He gets an extra minus AP, doesn't he?
It's not just AP, because it does actually say including invulnerable saves, so it does actually minus to their invulnerable save,
that sounds
which is one of the big ones. Now, I believe there is actually a Custodes Warlord trait in the book, or it might be a relic or something. I think it's a Warlord trait, if I remember correctly. Just give me 2 seconds while I flip back to it. Tricks. Yeah, Radiant Mantle. Your opponent must subtract 1 from hit rolls that target your Warlord. So this is a little bit more sort of aimed at characters targeting him. So the idea of this guy is he is going to be going hunting characters. So obviously the -1 to hit only affects enemy characters, but then he does get the additional AP and additional minus to their invulnerable save.
That's a nice little jetbike character going around. That sounds quite a nice little warlord trait for them. Because I think if you
Definitely does.
If you can punish just with a warlord trait to have an extra -1 for invulnerable saves, that's going to hurt a lot of people.
Yeah, it's one of the big things that Custodes do struggle with is invulnerable saves because they don't have quite a sort of massive amount of mortal wounds output.
Credit that comes with this host is at the start of the fight phase, select one enemy character unit within 3 inches of this model. Until the end of that phase, have the attack rounded up, and when resolving an attack made by a friendly Shadowkeeper's model against that character, unit reroll wounds. So I'm guessing you have a lot of multiple D3 stuff and all that, like to round up the attacks.
Yeah, I think it's half in.
Yeah, so half in there. So yeah. So half up and round up. So
have the attack characteristics of models in the unit rounding up when.
Again, that's tasty. If you chucked him against, say, Mortarion, like Dom about kicking it, and half in his attacks, reducing his invulnerable by 1, that's going to hurt.
If you select an enemy character, you're basically halving their amount of attacks, and then you're hitting them back and re-rolling ones to wound.
Yeah, so like with someone like Mortarion who's got the ×3 attacks, so he can be getting like 21 attacks. If you sort of if you halve his attacks, you're taking off a big chunk. Because he's a big character who's targetable, any sort of dent to his invuln save is a big deal.
I can imagine the boss from the Lord of Waaagh being all confident with his Ragnar, charging up the field with Ragnar, and then this thing turning up at him and going, no, you're not going to do too much damage to me, mate.
Yeah, that's sort of what he's meant for, because the shield bite captains get a massive boost when they charge. So being able to charge one of them in and having the -2 their invulnerable save and arm save is quite a big deal.
If you don't kill
quite
him,
nice
which
to
is unlikely, but if you don't kill him, you know that you're probably going to survive with halving them attacks and getting a -1 to hit you. And I like the fact that if any friendly model near him gets rerolled wounds all at 1 as well, so that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
And then you've got a stratagem that goes with these. Use this stratagem in any phase when a Shadowkeeper's unit from your army is chosen as a target of an attack. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack against that unit, subtract 1 from their strength characteristic. So again, charge them into a high strength, even a knight, and go, well, you're going to hit me on 7s. Or if you have got a character hitting on 6 or 7s, bring it back down to a copable, especially with the save that Custodians have as well. That's quite nice for 1 CP as well.
Yeah. It's majority toughness 5 and 6 in a Custode army. So being able to -1 strength makes things like heavy bolters and stuff like that, stuff that actually does hurt Custodes quite a bit. It does take them from wounding on 4s to wounding on 5s.
Yeah, that's quite nice. So
if you took 6, and if you can get like something that's like most of the starty stuff's like strength 4, if you can get that down to a 3, and then they're wounded on 6s, it's quite a big deal.
At the moment, Shadowkeepers, just straight out of the bat, there isn't that much of a negative to take that as a detachment. So, but we'll keep going through the others to see how they stack up.
Tips to taking any of them.
The first one, that's not bad compared to some of the books that have come out. The first one to be a good one. Yeah. So then we got the Aquilian Shield. When resolved, so their warlord trait is Revered Companion. when resolving an attack made against this warlord, half the damage inflicted, rounding up. I like this because I have something very similar as a relic on my Ynnari, and the amount of times people get very fed up with it and they go, I'm going to do 8 damage to it, now you're doing 4. And then I've got some feel no pains on top. I don't know if custodians can get that, but it's still just halving any damage is done, and it's an attack, so it's every dice you half, not the whole amount, which is quite nice.
Is it like Abaddon's ability? He's got a half damage type thing.
It's the same as that.
It's good on a model like Abaddon who's got like 8 wounds, because they've still got the below 10 wound targeting thing, but essentially they've kind of got double that.
You see, a lot of these warlord traits couple really well with something that's later on in the book, which is making basically like a shield captain that's a little bit more, because there's a command point stratagem later on in the book that lets you pick, like you've seen the guard tank cases and stuff like that allow you a little bit extra stuff. Well, I don't know if it has to be a warlord or not, but there's something a little bit later on that gives you various things, and one of them is +2 wounds, just straight up +2 wounds. So you couple that with this and then put the relic on. You can't do it on a guy on a bike because he can't take a storm shield. But if we look at the relic, it's just model with a storm shield only. When resolving an attack against a model with this relic, subtract 1 from the wound roll. So you've got a toughness 5 character with a 3 up invulnerable save because he's got a storm shield, and you -1 to wound him. And he's potentially halving all damage as well.
Yeah, and when halving damage, if someone goes to shoot you with like a D6 weapon, you kind of go, okay, I can take that. You're not like, oh god, this is going to literally nuke my character. You're like, yeah, you roll a 6. I know it's going to be a 3. It's fine. So the relic that goes alongside that is called the Praetorius, which is okay. Model with the storm shield only. When resolving an attack against the warlord with this relic, subtract 1 from the wound roll. Again, you've just half the damage, and if you stick it on the same character, you just if they're wounded on 3s or 4s, you're bringing that into line to stay alive, really, aren't you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can certainly face up again. Another one where I think you could probably face against not so much a character, but more elite units and still try and survive.
Yeah.
And then the CP, the stratagem that goes again, 1 CP. Use this stratagem in any phase when an Imperium character unit from your army is chosen as a target of an attack made by a model in an enemy unit. Select 1 friendly Aquilian Shield infantry or Aquilian Shield dreadnought unit within 3 inches of that Imperium character unit. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made by a model in that enemy unit, measure range to that Imperium character unit, but resolve attacks made by the models against the enemy unit. Oh wow. And if the unit is selected, destroyed, any remaining attacks are lost. So basically you're saying it's like a grot shield, isn't it? And it's like the Iron Hands one where he can kind of like shield. That's not bad. If you've got like, let's just say you run an Inquisitor or an Assassin with you guys, just to boost you up a little bit. That's the one way of keeping it alive, because if they go to shoot Swarmfire against him, and you go, oh no, my Dreadnought's going to take that, they're not going to kill it.
You see, I'd be tempted to use it a slightly different way. I'd be tempted to, cause that stratagem is meant for when you're souping in lists. So I'd potentially be looking at something that, like you mentioned before, Ragnar is really, really killer character, but he's not that survivable. So if you've got a couple of snipers sort of sat across from you and you're thinking, damn, Ragnar's going to sort of bite it, if you've got your warlord stood next to him, who has the halving damage thing with his storm shield that is -1 to wound, and you just go, well, actually, yeah, target Ragnar, but you're actually putting all this sort of to hit, to wound, and everything on this other shield captain.
That just sounds like really dirty. I can imagine everyone like trying to shoot him and it's like, well, you're not going to kill him.
Now, here's one for you as well. It only has to be a character that's your warlord. It doesn't have to be a HQ slot. So the Praetors, the guys with the banners for the custodes, the characters. So you can take a banner and a storm shield, which is exactly how I've loaded mine out already. Make him your warlord, make him take half damage, give him the -1 to wound rolls, and while he's within 6 inches of himself, he's also -1 to hit.
Oh, nice.
Have that running around next to a character that is a little bit squishy but packs a punch in combat, and for 1 CP a turn, you can really make someone work for trying to kill that character.
Yeah, I think obviously, as we know in 8th, and we will see if it changes in 9th. If you want to kill something, you can kill something because the weight of fire is there in 8th. But that is really going to soak up a lot of fire, and from a Yanari player, I know how much halving damage and putting even a high invuln on a Wraith Knight, Wraith Lord, and putting half damage on him and putting a Feel No Pain. He's not the highest toughness in the world. He's only got 12 wounds, but he survives the whole game purely because people have to put so much fire into him, and then by that time, your army's got up close and done whatever it needs to do.
Yep.
But okay, so we got the Dread Host now, the Warlord trait, All-Seeing Annihilator. Okay, that sounds pretty cool. When resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a model in a friendly Dread Host unit within 6 inches of this Warlord, any unmodified roll of 6 scores an additional hit. Again, that's quite nice, just boosting up your attacks if you end up being in combat. But I have to say, I've not, apart from Shield Captains, I don't think I've ever really got into combat with Custodes. They normally tend to shoot me from distance.
The only time that you tend to see them do it is when the Deep Striker unit using the Vexilla, using a stratagem in the Custode book that lets them Deep Strike within 6 inches of the Vexilla and outside 3 of an enemy. But there's also another stratagem in this book, which is a little bit later on, that lets you roll. You select 1 unit for 1 CP or up to 3 units for 2 CP, I think it is. I can't remember exactly. But it lets you roll 3d6 when you deep strike to charge. So you might see a little bit more combat from Custodes.
Again, it's a detachment. So if you just had a detachment purely, and we know that combat in 9th is going to be big with the changes that we've already seen with Overwatch going pretty much, and the terrain giving bonuses to a lot of stuff, and being closer, maybe having 1 detachment to do that sort of stuff. You could actually feel like they're going to gain from being in melee. So we've got the relic that goes with them. A model with a Castellan axe only. The Relic of Terror replaces a Castellan axe and has the following profile. So it's got a shooting and a melee attack. The shooting is 24 inches, which seems short in 8th, but I think in 9th that's going to be like mid to long range. I honestly think so. Rapid fire 1. So again, these are meant to be in melee by the sounds of the style of the host. So 12 inches to get that rapid fire 2. But for strength 4, -1, 2 damage. You're going to wound most things on 4s and 5s. That doesn't sound that great for a relic, personally.
Yeah, that's just the standard Castellan axe, basically. It's just the standard shooting profile. I think it's down in the melee profile that it actually gets its buff.
Yeah, +3, -3, 3 damage. Again, with the other stuff stacked on, it seems. I think at the first 2 we've seen, this is the most underwhelming one so far. And then the stratagem that goes with it is use the stratagem at the start of your charge phase. Select 1 Dread Host unit from your army that teleported into the battle this turn for 1 CP, or up to 3 such units for 2 CP until the end of the phase. When a charge roll is made for those units, roll additional d6 and discard 1 of the dice. So you could create a detachment of 3 units, elite units, and the Warlord with these relics, and that seems what 9th seems to be wanting us to do, is kind of really bespokely create our detachments, obviously taking out the troop tax to get the CP. This seems a good one to have like as a detachment as your melee focus, and then obviously potentially if you're going to run 2 detachments, have 1 more as a shooty backline holder kind of thing.
Yeah, am I right in saying with Custodes are had a bit of an issue with CP in this edition?
They certainly have.
So with 9th, they they should that should give them a bit of a boost then.
Yeah, it certainly should. Say normally with Custodes, you struggle to get a battalion in 1,500 points realistically that can do anything without just throwing units in there that are going to die. So yeah, being able to sort of pick and choose exactly what you want in your army is definitely going to be a massive boost for them.
I think the CP change all round for every army is good because you're going to be able to bring the armies that you want that army is meant to do. I think in 8, everyone's had to bring troop tax to get the CP because if you don't have the CP, you will lose. There's no two ways about it. And I think this is a real big good change that allows people to tailor the armies. Like, I think you're going to see a lot more battlesuit Tau armies. You're going to see a lot more elite elder armies, which with the aspect warriors, which is what they're meant to be, not guardians running around just dying to like laser gun shots. I think Space Marines, you're probably going to either see more vehicle based or more infantry, not a mix of the two. I don't know what the chaos side of it, and obviously it sounds like Sam, what you're saying here, the custodians are going to be able to pick what they want, not what they have to. So we've got Solar Watch is the next one, and their warlord trait is called Sally 4. Sounds like an Imperial Guard one. At the start of your movement phase, add 1 inch to the move characteristic of all friendly Solar Watchers units within 6 inches of your warlord until the end of that phase, whilst their unit is within 6 inches of this warlord. Models in the friendly Solar Watch units that have advanced can shoot with rapid fire weapons in the following shooting phase, but must subtract 1 from their hit rolls for those attack. So, Sam, you might be good to answer this. Have you got much rapid fire weapons?
So that one I see basically being more of a sort of warlord trait based around the jet bikes because they have hurricane bolters on them.
Ah, yes.
So you get them within that 12-inch range and you're firing 12 shots each, hitting on 2s. Now, they are only bolter shots, but again, Custode don't actually have a lot of firepower. They have good firepower, but they don't have a massive amount of it, apart from on the bikes with the hurricane bolters.
Yeah, but 12 shots a piece on a bike, you're going to do some damage, especially to infantry units.
Yeah, units of 36 shots. It's quite a lot.
Yeah. And then if they're shooting in 12, they're probably going to be charging you too. So their relic, the Swift Silver Talon, model with a Guardian Spear only. A model with this relic can shoot and charge in a turn in which it advanced or fell back. This relic of terror replaces a Guardian Spear and has the following profile. For shooting, again 24, it seems a common thing for custodians when I face them as well. You don't have too much of a longer range. Assault 4, Strength 4, -1. Again, that shooting one seems like it's just there for the sake of it. Like it's some shots, but you're not going to do too much damage with it. But again, the +1 strength, -3 D3 damage. That's going to be quite tasty in combat. Do some damage.
Yeah, I think this one's actually the opposite to the other one, where the +1 strength, -3 and D3 is quite similar to a Guardian Spear, but the Assault 4 is obviously a fair few shots more than what you'd normally get from a Guardian Spear. So I think the idea behind that is that it's going to be taking stuff like Terminators or what they called Primaris. Each shot will kill one if it gets.
Yeah, I can see the damage too happening to a lot of weapons, especially with Primaris get 2, and we'll probably see Chaos get 2 wounds at some point. So I can see a lot more weapons that are on the elite units become 2 damage minimum, and then obviously I reckon troops will stay at 1 because otherwise it'd just be too killy. That's my view on that. So then
Most of the Custode Guardian Spears are actually damage 2, which is something that a lot of people know. Not a lot of people know unless they've been shot by them.
So their stratagem is actually free. Use this stratagem in any phase when an enemy character unit is destroyed as a result of an attack made by a Solar Watch model from your army. The next time your opponent wishes to use a stratagem, they must spend 1 extra CP to use that stratagem. So basically, every turn you're going to play that when you kill a character, and it's going to cost them CP, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
It's not inherently affecting you, but I think when you know that the unit they're going to get a maximum of 12 CP. And you can kill a character. Potentially, some of your characters can kill characters quite reliably. There's probably another extra free CP you're making them spend, probably.
Yeah, the only thing that I've got sort of a little bit of apprehension for with regards to killing characters and stuff like that is I don't think you're going to see quite the high volume of characters that you do currently in 9th edition, simply because it will cost you command points to bring them characters. Because in a battalion, I believe you can only take 3, is it? Maximum HQ choices.
Yes.
So, like, I've been looking at my Iron Warriors that I'm painting up at the moment, and I'm looking at it thinking, right, currently I've got 5 or 6 HQ choices, and I'm going, right, well, I'm going to have to take a Supreme Command detachment, which is going to cost me CP to be able to take it. So now I'm thinking, can I fit it in, with less? Another one with the Custodes is you nearly always saw 3 shield captains on Dawn Eagle jet bikes because they are that good. But if you take them, you're not taking any of the guys on foot to sit back with the rest of your army that's a little bit slower, giving that reroll ones to hit.
But the shield captains always did quite well, especially in an ITC scene as well, because you was able to grab points, hold people off points, and even destroy people on points. But yeah, I think that one, the Solar Watch, is okay. It's not outstanding like the first 2 were, which seemed to be like, yeah, you could take them quite easily.
Yeah.
So now we've got Emissaries Imperatrice. So we've got their warlord trait is the voice of the Emperor. Let's hope this is good. Whilst they are within 9 inches of your warlord, friendly Imperium units can use this warlord's leadership characteristic. Add 3 inches to the range of the warlord's aura ability. This has already been added into this trait's aura ability. So basically,
I don't think you're going to be using that too much. No. I think you're going to be using the ones out of the book for that, but actually, these are quite good when you look at the stratagem for them.
Okay, so we'll move on to the relic. The Vexa Dominatus. Model with this relic can replace a model with this relic's Custodian Spell-X and defense ability with the following. Whilst they're within 6 inches of a model with this relic, you can reroll failed morale tests for friendly Imperium infantry and Imperium biker units. Whilst their unit is within 6 of a model with this relic, friendly host models count as free models for the purpose of for ITC. The relic's not that bad because you could certainly outweigh them on the points.
I don't think you're ever going to take this purely because to take that relic, you have to take the Vexilla, which is pretty much where you up your survivability with Custodes, because that's where you can take the Vexilla that gives you the -1 to hit, and this replaces that. So you're giving up -1 to hit to 3 models.
I also think that leadership stuff at the moment is not that great anyway. And then with the new edition, they're just basically saying you're going to need to take either a very large unit or a very small unit. I can't see leadership coming into play too much.
No, especially in a pure Custode army, because they don't have enough models to really care about leadership.
Like Necrons, if you face them, you're not going to worry about leadership at all. So their stratagem is use a stratagem in any phase when a shield host unit from your army is chosen to shoot or fight with until the end of that phase when resolve an attacks made by a model. Basically, you're saying, I'm not going to get modified on anything, I'm just going to hit you and wound you on my normal roll for 1 CP. Now, that's not too bad of a stratagem, to be honest.
That's where that shield host is quite good. But again, I don't think it's realistically one that you're going to be choosing over the first 2.
Maybe if you took a Supreme Command detachment or something like you said, and you just wanted that stratagem, that wouldn't be a bad roll in, maybe, or patrol if it's still free. I don't really see. So they've got quite a few stratagems here. So we'll go through them. So we've got, for 1 CP, 10,000 heroes. Use this stratagem before the battle, after nominated. So this is just giving the extra warlord trait, isn't it? Yeah. So the standard one there. This one, next one is for Dreadnought.
That one's just the standard one that everything's getting.
Each unit for your army is chosen to until the end of phase, resolving text made against it. Yeah, so it's like the one that the Iron Hands introduced, wasn't it? By halving your damage on your Dreadnoughts. Again, makes them more.
Yeah, it's just the generic Space Marine one.
Arcane.
The
use a stratagem in any phase when adapted.
This is basically the transhuman physiology.
Oh yeah, wins on 1, 2, 3 ways. That's quite nice because people who shoot custodians tend to try and wound you on 3s because with such a save, it's worthless chucking in the stuff that wins on 5s. Because with wound on 5s and you save it on 2s, it's just, you're not going to kill money. So next one is internal penitent. Use a stratagem before the battle. One of your dreadnoughts unit from your army. Increase that unit's attacks characteristic by 1. You can reroll charge rolls made for that unit. Each adapted Scottish dreadnought unit from your army can only be selected for this stratagem once. So basically, you're given reroll charges and 1 extra attack. That's not bad for 1 CP, considering.
Yeah, it's actually not great on the Contemptor that you get in the book, but if you have one of the Forge World Contemptor dreadnoughts, they are actually really good with it because there's 2 sort of very close combat based dreadnoughts for the Custodes from Forge World.
Okay. So next one is a 2 CP one. Use a stratagem in any phase when a discarded vehicle model from your army with the power of the machine spirit ability is destroyed. That model can either automatically explode, do not roll a d6, shoot with one of its ranged weapons as if it was a shooting phase, or make 1 attack in one of the melee weapons if it was able to fight in the fight phase using the top row. Which is that's not too bad. Like if you've got something that's very shooty, that could be quite nice as a thing. But for 2 CP though, it seems a bit expensive.
So it's a weird one because again, if you look at the Custode book, the only thing I believe that has it in the Custode book is a Land Raider, and you never take the Land Raider from the Custodes. However, again, if you look at the Forge World stuff, like the Ares gunship, it's one of the flyers, and that actually has power of the machine spirit and has some sort of quite nice little shooting weapons that are better than potentially shooting a double las cannon. And again, I think a lot of the Orion dropship as well has power of the machine spirit. So a lot of the Custode tanks from Forge World is probably where you're going to more be using this stratagem on.
Yeah, but I still think 2 CP for a last hurrah is quite expensive, though, especially when we know we've only got 12.
Yeah, but it's like the Custode transport. One of its weapons is 36-inch range, heavy 6, strength 6, -2 and 1 damage. Or it's got another one which is 36, heavy 2, strength 7, -4, 3 damage and reroll to wound against vehicles.
Well, that's quite. Oh yeah, okay, maybe I can see that being expensive. So Slayers of the Nightmares. Use a stratagem in your fight phase when a adapted Custodes unit from your army is chosen to fight. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a model in that unit against the unit with your higher toughness characteristic than your own, you can add 1 to... Okay, that's not bad, but really, how often are you going to face something with a higher toughness?
This actually is quite amazing because you use it on stuff like knights and things like that, because you're only toughness 4 base. So you go into a knight with, say, a unit of Alaris Terminators that you've deep struck in. And I believe the axe is a +3 strength, which makes you strength 8. So you're already wounding that knight on 4s, but with this you can make it 3s.
Okay, yeah, that's...
And because knights don't get that invulnerable save in combat, and I think it's -2 or something on the Castellan axes. Again, I've not got the weapon profile to hand. But yeah,
I thought custodians was strength 5, so toughness 5. So,
yeah.
If you're in toughness 4, okay, so that's like
No. They are toughness 5. But again, stuff like knights and things like that, that's where you're going to be sort of doing that. It's the strength and toughness 5, but most of the weapons give them a plus of something when it comes to their attacks in combat.
One is over here, which is use this stratagem in your opponent's psychic phase. When an Adeptus unit from your army is selected as a target with psychic power that was successful manifest this turn, roll 1d6, adding 1 to the result. If the unit is a custodian warden unit on a 4+ at psychic power, has no effect. Well, that's not bad. It's a nice quick deny for you.
This will come into it a lot more when you chain it into having Sisters of Silence in your list, which you'll see a little bit later on, because you can now add Sisters of Silence to a custode army without it stopping being a custode detachment.
Okay.
Yeah, they have another stratagem that's pretty similar to this, but it's on a 3+. So you can have your entire army where your opponent has to think about what they target with psychic powers, because if they're targeting your stuff, then I believe it's after Deny the Witch as well. I know the Sisters one is anyway, the Sisters Silence. I know that one is after
the Sisters. So that would be after Deny the Witch. So you've got a chance to Deny the Witch and cancel it out, which is not too bad. I think.
So again, if you stick,
chaos.
if you have an Inquisitor in there, you can try and deny it. If you fail to deny it, 1 command point on a 4-up or a 3-up. If it's targeting a Sisters Silence unit, then it doesn't go off anywhere.
I think if it's something like reroll wounds against you and stuff like that, that's quite powerful.
Yeah.
So we've got another one, which is another for vehicles, which we now understand that's going to be very selective. 5-up, so it's a 5-up feel no pain, and you also get, in addition, until the end of the phase when this model loses a wound. Especially you get 5-up feel no pain for a vehicle until the end of the roll. It's alright. I don't know. I think would you waste CP to do that for a vehicle when your other stuff is more important?
It depends on how the custodes play with more command points, because currently a lot of the sort of more competitive lists are using 3 or 4 vehicles in the form of the Caladius Grav tanks, I think it is.
Oh yes.
So yeah, being able to sort of ignore mortal wounds on them makes them that little bit more survivable. And for 1 command point, the 1 in 3 chance to ignore mortal wounds coming at you isn't the worst thing in the world.
Talons uses stratagem in your shooting phase. When Adeptus infantry unit from your army that did not advance in your previous movement phase is chosen to shoot until the end of that phase, models in that unit can make double number attacks with rapid fire and pistol weapons. So as we just talked about before, as Dom nicely said, 3 bikes shooting 36. Fire this one. that's 72 shots from 1 bike squad that hasn't advanced.
Fortunately, I thought that myself. But it does say custodian infantry.
Yeah, crap.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Sorry,
it's a sigh of relief for me.
Yeah, that's really dirty then, and thank you for.
Yeah, it's what you can do though is if you drop down a unit of the Alaris Terminators with the strength 4 -1 2 damage axes, or even a Custodes Guard squad, you deep strike a unit, get it within 12. It's already firing 2 shots. Put this stratagem on for 1 command point. It's each custode then is firing 4 shots. If you've got a unit of 10, that's 40 shots coming out. But strength 4 -1 2 damage.
I think for 1 CP, that's pretty good, and that does add a lot of power to your infantry as well. I like that.
It certainly does.
Thankfully, not on the bikes. Use the next one is a 2 CP. Use this stratagem in any phase when your opponent cannot reroll any dice for that attack. Now, against most people, that's not going to be too well, but face the Space Marine meta, that's going to be quite nice. You could literally go, right, you've got your aura buffs, reroll all hits.
One of
Yeah, no.
the really good uses of this one is because it's when a unit is targeted. So they've already declared whether they are overcharging plasma and stuff like that at this point.
Oh, that's just mean. That's
A
really mean.
unit of custodes, hoping for that reroll from, let's say, a lieutenant and a chapter master. And you've got a Vexilla within 6 inches, the -1 to hit, and then they're not getting the rerolls.
And see some dead Marines. That's like, again, 2 CP. I think that's still usable too. Like, but it does sound like that. For me, when you read it off like that, it's actually like that is technically, I think, a 3 CP sort of level, because that's. But it doesn't affect every army. If it affected every army widespread, it would be quite powerful at 2 CP. But I think you're really going to get its worth out against Marines, because they're just buffers at the moment, aren't they? Every other unit in a Marine list is buffing something. Like, the only thing I can see from Elder is the psychic powers that you might cancel out, which again is a waste of a psychic power for them, which is good. I don't know what sort of rolls you get from the Chaos and Death Guard side, Dom, but
Quite a lot. It's quite a buffing aura based sort of army, really.
cool. So next one is Blood Game Veterans. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase. Select an Adaptus Custodies unit from your army that contains 5 or less models most of the time, or 6 and 1 models for 2 CP until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made with that ranged weapon by a model in that unit. Unmodified hit roll 6 automatically scores a hit and success. Yeah, we've seen that being rolled out in most codex now, especially the Imperium. Where they just get an automatic wound from hitting you on a 6. That's quite nice. If you rolled that against the so you did that and superior fire patterns, that's quite nice, because you're going to roll a few 6s in 40 dice.
You should definitely hope so.
Yeah, I think, and as you said, that's a select unit of 10, so that would be quite costly. But for 3 CP to pretty much murder the unit you're facing, especially if you've got high damage and AP on the weapon, that's quite nice. I think nice little combo.
I'll be honest, at that point, I'd be tempted to split fire, because you can do that at the moment. You know, drop down a unit in between 2 units of 10 primaris, split 20 shots on 2s. I think you'd probably reduce them to very few models left.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, with a Spitfire, that would definitely be, because, as you said, 20 shots, you're going to get a good amount of 6s out of that, and if you're very lucky, quite a lot. So with this strategy, so next one is 1 CP. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase when a Adaptus Custodes unit from your army is chosen to shoot with until the end of that phase. Attack made with a ranged weapon with a damage characteristic of D6 by a model that unit. Roll 1 additional D6, and so basically you're giving a unit melter rules, aren't you? Pretty much. Yeah.
Now, most people look through the custode book and go, "Well, there isn't really anything that does that the shooting, apart from the bikes with their."
I guess you're going to bring Forge World into this, aren't you?
Yeah, it's again. You either look at Land Raider and go, "Yes, I really want to take a Land Raider. I'm going to put some CP into making it good." Or I've just got in front of me now the Custodian Guard with the 2 different spears that you can take. Because normally it's just got a bolter attached to it, but there's an 18-inch range assault 1, strength 5 -3, 3 damage. Or it's basically got a melter strapped to the other variant. But if you're more than 6 inches away, pop a command point, and your Custodian Guard that have got 5 men in it, hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s, potentially against something, doing 2d6 at 12 inches, picking the result that they want. It's actually not too bad.
Certainly an elite / vehicle killer, because even if
you've
got that, like, yeah, I think that would, if you, I think it's a very situational stratagem. Some of these are, you'd probably use that quite often. So the superior fire pattern, you'd probably maybe use that a fair bit. The one where you can disable auras, again, that seems like one you'd use more often than not. But this one, I think if you're in the situation, you'd use it maybe. But
Yeah, you have to have the right units, and you have to be in the right position with them.
so a lot of your CPs are one CP, which is I think is quite nice in the GW. They've not chucked too many frees. Well, actually, there's no frees in here I've seen so far. So it's certainly playing to the ninth rules, saying like, look, we're going to let you play a lot of stratagems with 12 CP plus potentially, 18 CP because you get one back every turn. So it seems that these stratagems are certainly written in that sort of sense that we are going to let you use them. There's some cool stratagems, but you've got to be picky with what you use.
I think as well with Custodes, because currently they don't get a lot of CP, and this book is technically written for 8th edition where they don't get that additional CP. But they don't also get a lot of models, so they need to be using stratagems to make them that sort of top level army.
Target with an attack until the end of the phase. When resolving an attack against that unit, any armor penetration of -1 or -2 is resolved. So that's just insane. Because with your 2-up save already, that means that unit is not shifting. I don't care what you shoot at them, they are not going. -2 to 0 AP. That's nasty.
Yeah, the Terminators for the Custodes basically get an extra wound more than anything else, so they're not getting a 2-up save because everything already has a 2-up save. But again, this is also the Terminator variants from Forge World, but they will have, if they're in an all Custode detachment, that +1 to their invulnerable save. So they will have a 4-up invulnerable save. So yeah, ignoring -1 and 2 is an absolutely massive deal against them.
-1 is fair enough, and you think, yeah, that could be fine, but -2, that's most guns.
Yeah.
So the last one is Fraternity of Heroes. Use this stratagem at the end of your opponent's charge phase. Select one Adaptive Codist unit. Immediately perform a heroic intervention as if it was a character, but they must finish. So basically, if you've got units that are not quite in or have been left out of combat and have survived, you can basically just chuck them back in, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
CP. That's quite tasty. So, and then we've got Lords of the Shield Host. Going to take a short little pause there and record that again. So we got. So next up,
Jason, I don't know if you can hear it on your end, but to me, like your microphone keeps it's like keep fading out. It's weird.
Yeah, I get that on my side as well from Jason. It's sort of like he's speaking normally and then he just sort of slowly backs away from his microphone is what it sounds like.
That might actually be what I'm doing. I'll learn.
Right. I wasn't sure if it was a setting or something.
Sorry,
cool.
Camera, we're just,
Have I got time to go to Lou?
Yeah, if you want, mate.
Sorry, I'm probably not going to. I'm not going to input much. I'm not inputting much into this part anyway. To be fair, so you can crack on without me if you want. I'll be a couple of minutes.
Okay, no worries. Right.
All right, cheers.
So next up, we've got Lord of the Shield Hosts. So this seems a bit. So the commander who hosts the commander. Oh my god. Next up, we've got the Lord of the Shield Hosts. Those who command the Shield Host in battle are humanely skilled warriors and commanders who have earned the eternal respect of their comrades through exemplary deeds beyond counting. So, if your army is battle forged, includes any adaptive coded detachments, including auxiliary support detachments, that you have access to this stratagem. So basically, you're saying if you just have a purely mono, again, this is GW's 9th edition. Please do mono, no soup. You get some bonus stuff, which is quite nice. If you do so, you have an army roster. You must note on which of these sections you have for your shield captain. So we've got a couple here. We've got Captain Commander traits. We've got Slayer of the Unclean. When resolving an attack made by this model on an unmodified wound roll of 6, double the damage characteristic of the weapon for IG for attack. D3 becomes 2d3. I think that's quite nice. Just
Yeah,
simple,
most
do more damage.
have D3 damage on most of the weapons, unless, again, you start looking at some of the relics, like the ones that we saw earlier. That's just a flat 3 damage, plus 3 strength and minus 3. So it's going to be strength 8 minus 3 and 6 damage on wound rolls of a 6.
That's quite nice. We've got Swift as an Eagle. Add 1 to the advance and charge roll made for this model. Add 1 inch to the move. Character. Again, if you want it to be running around the board, it's not bad. It's not great. 1 inch, I think. There's the other one's more useful.
There's definitely better ones in here.
Strategic Mastermind. While this model is on the battlefield, you can roll a d6 for each command point you spend. Stratagem of 5+. That command. Again, it's only 1 per turn, and I think it's probably going to be the same in 9th. But if you've got that spare model to chuck it on, why not? Because that's potentially 2 CP back a turn. And again, as you said, custodians use as a kind of bit of a crutch to push them up a little bit more. That could be helpful.
Yeah.
I know I also include that sort of relic and thing in my older armies. So we've got Bane of the Abomination. When resolving an attack made by this model against an enemy monster, unit, or vehicle, you can reroll the wound. Again, that's quite nice actually, but it's situational. How many?
Yeah, again, it fits in with some of the other sort of relics and traits that they can get.
Next one is Indomitable Constitution. Add 2 to the wounds characteristic. Again, I think that's quite nice. Just another 2 wounds. With the sort of saves you're getting, that's actually quite powerful. It certainly multiplies the efficiency of that unit by quite some. Master of Melee. Whilst models within 1 inch of an enemy unit that contains 6 or more models, increase. Again, this is going towards GW. We want to punish, or we want you to hit hordes like you'd hit if you're swiping, isn't it? Really, like hit the horde units harder, basically, which is fair enough. There's a lot of them around you. You expect to kind of hit them. Next is Unstoppable Destroyer. When this model powers in, it can move up to D3 plus 3 and can end its movement closer to any enemy model within the distance of this model. When this model consolidates, it can move up to D3 plus 3 and does not have to end it. So I think that's quite good, because especially with the new terrain rules, if you've got a little bit that you could stick behind for their shooting phase, that's a huge bonus if you can get like a 5-inch consolidate out away from them. Over the past year playing Yunari, I've kind of learned that some of the stuff, how you do it in Melee and how you do the consolidating, is really powerful. So I think that's quite a nice one. Defiance the Last. Each wound this model has lost increases attacks characteristics by 1. So basically, it's going to be quite a beast by the time it's lost 3 wounds. It's not too bad.
Yep.
Inspirational example. Add 3 inches to the range of this model's aura abilities. Now, again, if you're running some of them aura abilities from the host that we've seen, making it 9-inch auras, it's not bad.
Yeah.
And then for the commander, so for the CP, and this user stratagem before the battle. So this you're spending 1 CP to select 1 shield captain. So it costs a CP, but I think maybe the consolidation, the strategic mastermind to get the CP back on a 5-up, and the first one where it creates double the weapon damage. I think they're probably worth 1 CP, but I don't think the others are really. Not when you think about other stuff you want to spend.
No, again, you can pop Victor of the Blood Games, which I think's 2 CP stratagem, which gives one of your characters a free reroll per turn. So you could have, potentially looking at this, a shield captain on foot that's got 2 additional wounds, halves all damage, is -1 to wound, and gets a free reroll with his 3+ invulnerable save.
That's cool, right. Cadres are the Silent Sisters. They have certainly gone through the index and the dictionary to think of different names for these different armies. So it says data sheets on pages 43 and 45. You'll find the background and data sheets for your Sisters of Silence units to use. So basically saying this is the only one, isn't it, to use, which is quite. I think it's only something small, but for GW to include that is quite cool because it's basically saying use this, and that's where a lot of confusion happens for a lot of units. I think.
Yeah.
If they just did that in every new publication, then there would be no argument. I think that's a huge thing because I know with some of the books, like especially in RE, White Dwarf came out literally just prior to our book, and people were like, well, what's the difference? They look the same. There was like a couple word difference. So if they just use this book, not the White Dwarf that came out a month or 2 months prior to that book, it would have helped a bit. But yeah, cool. So in your armies, but yes, you get the standard blurb there. We got so basically they're just saying use this because this is all the points values. I've never used these before. The points seem roughly similar to other stuff that's about.
Yeah, I think it's around about the same points. They might have gone down a point or two here and there, but nothing major.
The abilities you'll find. Witch hunters. So when resolving an attack made by a model in this unit against a psyker, you can reroll the wound roll. Now that's okay, especially against yourself, Dom being very very high psychic in chaos. And
we were just saying
that's quite nice. For the whole army to get reroll wounds on stuff that's gonna potentially be
You say your whole army, but they actually only have elite slots and dedicated transports.
Fair enough. The whole Sisters army. But if you knew we were going against a highly psychic army, you could put a small detachment and go right. Okay, this slot is going to get. I think for something free, that's not bad.
Now, if you read a little bit further down under Talons of the Emperor, when you get to it, you realise why this section actually is quite amazing for the Adeptus Custodes.
Okay, so we'll show them on this. The unit, so this is Psychic Abomination. This unit cannot be targeted or affected by psychic powers. Oh. When a psychic test or deny the witch test is taken for an enemy model, subtract 1 from that total for each unit. Your army. So basically, if you have a detachment of these against, say, a heavy chaos psychic or elder, and then you've got a inquisitor sitting in your army, that you're probably pretty much guaranteed to deny the test with these sitting around.
Well, to be honest, you make it so they can't even cast it in the first place, because if you've got a Colexus Assassin, that's an additional -2 on top of this -4.
Yeah, that's painful. That and
it's not even that expensive.
Yeah,
Sam was just saying before, was it about 300 points or something like that?
295, I think, is the cheapest you can get it, because it's 4 Battle Sister units, which are 10 points per model, 5 models in a unit, and then 95 points for the Assassin.
Yeah, that's and we know that the table size is going down, so the chance that you're going to get in range is that's not bad, and it's all free, which is great.
Yeah.
Talons of the Emperor. If your army is battle-forged, units with this Sisters of Silence faction keyword can be included in an Adeptus Codex detachment in your army without preventing the detachment from being an Adeptus Codex detachment. Note that this does not prevent Adeptus Codex units from detachment abilities, e.g. the traits and stuff. However, Sisters of Silence units cannot use them. Basically, you're saying that you can just put a detachment in your custodial army, not hurt your custodial army, and get some free stuff for it. That's not bad.
Yeah, one of the best uses for these is actually because of how cheap they are. A unit of 5 of these is not much more than a custodian guard, and you can sit them back on objectives.
Yeah, that's quite nice. That. So then we've got Null Maidens. They've got a lot of nice abilities, just standard abilities here. A Sister of Silence Vanguard detachment, that is a Vanguard detachment that includes only Sisters of Silence units, is treated as having a HQ battlefield roll slots of 0 and command points of none, which makes no difference in 9th, which is fair enough. Note that this means that there are no compulsory HQ selections. So basically what you're saying is, as you just said, you can take a Vanguard detachment with no HQ, not worrying about the HQ, and stick it with the thing. But obviously the downside is the ninth is going to cost you CP.
Yeah.
I think the main thing with Sisters of Silence is they complement the Custodies really well, because I've only played Custodies a couple of times. The first game I got absolutely mullered because I couldn't get through the armor saves. The second time I played them, it was a Zinch army, so I was just chucking out smites all the time, and it tore them to pieces. So that is, the mortal wounds is a weakness of the and smites generally are a weakness of the Custodies, and this is like a direct counter to that. So,
and we know how much mortal wounds exist in 8th.
Yeah.
So this is a list of the items. We'll go through them quickly because it's obviously a bit hard to talk about data sheets. So this unit sisters comes with 1 sister superior, 4 prosecutors. It can additionally contain up to 5 prosecutors. Lovely to play against for you, especially that demon army you took to our tournament the other month. Unit, a hit roll of a 6 inflicts 1 mortal wound. So basically, you can potentially fire out a lot of more wounds there against some psychics and demons.
yeah.
And they all seem to carry these, which is quite nice. And to be fair, their melee power, strength 5, minus 3 d3 damage. You don't really want to be fighting them with your standard units.
No, they're pretty good actually.
Vigilators there, yeah, they're save 3 up, which is quite nice. 1 wound, so they're not that strong and tough. The problem is they're toughness 3, the Light Elder. They might fall if you shoot them to pieces, though. But I think
I think the prosecutors are probably a better option because you can target characters that are psychers with your shots, and you're getting the reroll to wound against psychers with your bolters. And there's a stratagem later on that actually helps them out a little bit as well.
Yeah. Out of the 2, the prosecutors still seem the better, but just as the point cost for vigilators, that sort of weaponry is quite nice actually.
Yeah.
So then we've got the Witch Seekers. So a unit contains 1 Sister Superior and 4 Witch Seekers, and it can have an additional 5, up to 10, and they're equipped with a Flamer and Psych Out Grenades. The Flamer, stretch range 8, strength 4. So it's a standard one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nothing. So they don't. For me, again, prosecutors stand heads to tail over them.
Yeah. Again, it's the stratagems and the role that you want them to take in your army. A couple of unit of vigilators in a Imperial Guard army as a bit of a counter punch. Hide them until they're needed and then step out and hit something in combat at strength 5. It's not bad, but again, it depends on what you're using them for. And personally, I see them as hand in hand with the Custodes.
Especially with toughness 3, you'd need to give them some protection.
Yeah.
And then we've got a null. So we still need uses for Mate Ronos, not just with the non-Primus. So we've got Rhino, which comes with Hunter Killer Missile and a Storm Bolter. So just standard Rhino, really, isn't it? There's nothing special about it. I guess you'd use them to ship them up the field if you needed to.
The good thing about these is, I believe, with the Witch Hunters and Psychic Combination rules, it's every unit in your army, which does include the Rhino, so you could actually take just the Rhinos on the field. You get the -1 to Psychic tests.
Do they have is it the Psychic Abomination rule? I don't think they've got that, have they, on the Rhinos?
Okay, so now we've got the Sister of Silence stratagems. We have Empiric Surveillance. Use this stratagem in your opponent's psychic phase when an enemy psycho manifests a psychic power within 18 inches of a Sister of Silence. Well, with the new board size, that's quite likely. Unit from your army after the Deny the Witch attempt. Well, yes, that's what you mentioned when we did the Custodians talk. 3+, that's quite a good roll to do for 1 CP. If it's quite a warp time now, it's going to be super strong. I think with the size boards. If you could counter that, that's nice. For it on a flip. And that's after having a go with your Inquisitor if you've got that, or if you've got any other type of
tests and the Deny the Witch tests.
Yeah. That because obviously when someone does warp time in front of you, you know you want to stop that as best as you can, especially from the Chaos side. So next one is Talons. Use this stratagem in any phase after shooting or fighting with an Adeptus Codis unit from your army. Select one friendly Sisters of Silence infantry unit within 6 inches of that unit until the end of that phase. When resolving an attack made by a model of that Sister of Silence, you can reroll the hit roll. That's really cheap reroll, and that's hit roll, so it's not failed misses. That's every single dice. That's really nice.
Yep.
For 1 CP, that and I think just that one stratagem proves that these are meant to go hand in hand. It's just extra firepower for Custodians, really, isn't it? That is more reliably going to hit. Next one is Punishment Fire. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase when a prosecutor unit from your army is chosen to shoot. Until the end of that phase, change the rapid fire type characteristic of bolt guns equipped on models in that unit to 18 and assault 3, respectively. Whew. You pair some of these up. That's quite nice.
Yeah, you stack those two together.
So they're getting 3 shots each. 18 inches, which if you're playing them the way they meant to play, you're probably within 18 because of the psychic stuff. And then re-rolling the hit rolls, and then they've got protection of Custodians behind them or in front of them. That's quite a nice little walking gun line, I think.
It's good because it's like it gives you like an anti-horde option if you hadn't brought that in your list, but you suddenly find yourself up against a horde.
Especially for tournaments, because as you know, Dom, you can't tailor your list. You kind of got to bring a bit of all.
Exactly.
And there hasn't been too many horde armies in 8th. There's been a few, but not loads. So yeah, that's quite nice just to suddenly switch the type of your gun and go, alright, I can actually deal with these 30 orc boys charging me. So the next one is Desperation's Price. Use this stratagem in your opponent's psychic phase when an enemy psycho unit of 18 of your Sister of Silence infantry unit from your army suffers perils of the warp. That psycho suffers additional. So basically, if they peril, they're dead.
Yeah, it's similar to one of the demon strategies is the same, and it's because there's so many like 4 wound psychos about, so you can on 2d3 you can quite easily shot them with that stratagem.
If you're running psychos, that's the backbone of your army in terms of what your army is meant to be doing. I think if you can take out the psychos from someone's army, that's going to hurt them quite badly because they're obviously relying on them powers.
Yeah, I killed Tigarius with one of those. We're using that stratagem once in the Demon Codex, which is quite satisfying.
So again, these are all 1 CP, so it shows that GW is there to say these are to help, not to be their own, because 1 CP isn't going to cost too much for a Custody to spend, and even more to focus on their main army. So the next one is Crippling Dread. Use this stratagem at the start of the phase. Select 1 Sisters of Silence infantry unit from your army until the end of that phase when resolving an attack made by the model of the enemy unit within 6. So there's a -1 to hit for 1 CP. It's not bad.
Yeah, it's good.
Next one is Decapitation Strikes. Use this stratagem in the fight phase when a Vigilator, a unit from your army, is chosen to fight. Till the end of that phase, when resolving attacks made with this weapon by a model in the unit, add 1. So the strength 5, -3, here we said, wasn't it? Yeah, -3 DP,
Yeah.
and now you could
Yeah.
potentially wounded on 2s, depending on what you're hitting, because they're probably going to be anti-infantry people or anti-elites. So strength 5, you might be wounding on 4s, maybe 5s, and occasionally the 3s. So adding that 1 to wound, that's quite nice.
Yeah, I think any strat that gives you +1 to wound is really good.
Especially when you
Yeah, I mean,
up
to be honest, yeah, I mean, all these stratagems look really good on other armies. They'd be kind of broken at this CP cost. I think it's just because they've got like quite limited units. So
so then
Yeah, it's again because they're supposed to tie in with the custodes. You're not going to have a lot of anything in a custode army until you start adding Sisters of Silence in, and then the last thing you want is Sisters of Silence in your army that are just attacks. Sort, because if you look at them as standard, they don't really do much without these stratagems.
mm-hmm.
No, in these stratagems, 1 CP, you're getting reroll hits, -1 to hit, reroll, add 1 to the wound roll. So they're buffing them up quite nicely in situations where you want to use them. So, like you said, you could bring them as a not such a troop tax, but like a objective holders. But if the time comes and they're needed, you know that you could switch them on by just using a stratagem.
Yeah, or if you are going against, like Dom said, a lovely Zinj Psyker heavy army, your custode's just going to be, every 3 wounds on a custode is just taking a custode off on mortal wounds. Against a Zinj army, you can be taking, 4 or 5 custodes off a turn without any real sort of defense against it. Whereas if you run the Sisters of Silence home, you've got that -1 for anything within 18 inches. Makes them custodes a little bit more survivable, and they're not affected by any psychic powers. So if they're in front of your custodes, smite affects the nearest enemy or the closest visible enemy unit. Yeah, it affects them, but then they're not affected by it, so it doesn't work.
It seems to be a nice balance between you're making a mono army between 2, quite, you get all the sides covered. So the next one is use this stratagem in your shooting phase. Select a Witch Seeker unit from your army that contains 5 or less models for 1 CP, or 6 or more for 2 CP until the end of the phase. When determining number of shots made by a flamer, the models are equipped with that. Any results less than 4, so basically guaranteeing 4 auto hits. But it's only strength 4. Is it worth the CP? I don't think it is. That one's quite poor.
It depends what you're going up against. If you're going up against something like Tyranids or something like that, and there's 30 Gorns about to overrun you, and you've got 10 of these Witch Seekers sat on an objective that you need to hold, getting a minimum 40 shots is actually not too bad.
Yeah. Next one is, and the last one is in marital dissonance. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase or your opponent's charge phase after resolving an attack made with a Psych Out grenade by a Sisters of Silence model from your army. A Psyker or Demon unit that scored a hit until the end of that turn. That Psych or Demon unit cannot fire Overwatch, and when resolving attacks made by that model, subtract 1. So obviously the denying Overwatch is probably not so strong anymore because there isn't going to be
unless it's against. Yeah, potentially, but if you wanted to, say, charge your custodes again into a unit of, I don't know, paladins that were really, really buffed up.
Greaters. I'm just thinking, like, the demon keyword thing. There's loads of things in the Chaos Codex, and it's not just the Demons Codex. Forge Fiends, Obliterators, all of the demon keyword.
Does the Disco Lord, the Discount Lord, does that have...
Yeah, that's demon as well.
Yeah, so that would hurt, and also the -1 to hit would help you against it as well.
Yeah, Flame is a Zinj, that'd be another unit that'd be good against.
I think that certainly is a nice buff for Custodians, really. Having, especially where you can have a Vanguard attachment with no worry about HQ. Just bringing 3 of them in, depending on the cost of CP of 9th, that could be a really good, just like, buff for Custodians on top of what they've already gained. I think generally, so that's them on this book. apart from the Imperial agents. I think that's a real big buff for Custodians, to be fair. Out of a lot of armies have not seen too much out of Psychic Awakening, but I think they're just general good working buffs, like the nice combos for you to use, and a lot of it is switch on when you want, not I'm just going to have this unit that's really strong all the time, and if it dies my army is crippled. You could say, right, well, I'm going to turn that unit on or that unit on, so it's harder for the enemy to kill the specific units that they need to kill.
Yeah, they seem a lot more flexible with those stratagems than they were before.
So we've got we're going to cover the Imperial Assassins, but I'm going to ignore the data sheets because they're pretty much the same as what's in the White Dwarf before. And all the stuff here is just like a reprint of the White Dwarf, if I'm correct, Sam?
There is one or two vital things that are different, which comes in on the first page on their abilities. I believe now you can take them. So Execution Force, if your Warlord has the Imperium keyword excluding Fallen, you can include this unit in your army as part of a Vanguard detachment, even if it's thingy. So that's basically saying that you can take them in the thing. But Agents of the Imperium, if you include one Agent of the Imperium in each Imperium patrol, brigade, or battalion, basically they don't muck up your combat doctrines and stuff like that.
They're trying to bring them back into play a little bit, aren't they? Because I think with the changes they disappeared quite heavily.
Yeah, they were only in sort of soup armies. So now that they're gearing more towards being able to sort of have people have other smaller things dotted in. So you could quite easily have a Custodes army that has an assassin and a Lord of Sisters Silence in it. You're still getting all your benefits for being Custodes.
Which is quite nice. And I think we'll see a lot more colourless and Eversource stuff with the whole the range difference now with such a small board. But yeah, so these are just the data sheets are all the same. So is there any changes in stratagems?
Yes. So there used to be the stratagem where you left yourself 85 points of sort of reserves, and then you paid 2 command points to actually take an assassin. So they've changed that a little bit now.
Okay, so stratagem before the battle begins. If your army includes exactly one Officios Saliardum unit, remove that unit. Official assignment unit of your choice to your army. The unit that is removed does not count as being destroyed, but any rules purpose, unlike other units that are added to your army, this new unit does not cost any reinforcement points, even in a match play game. Sorry, that didn't come to my mic, did it?
It did, but again, you were sort of slacking off a little bit.
So that's quite a big change. No reinforcement points needed.
Yeah. So basically now you take it on your army list. So say you chose the anti-psyker assassin, and then you went up against a Necron army, and you sat there going, "Oh crap! This guy, isn't doing anything." You just go, "Well, instead of wasting 95 points for this assassin, I'll pay 2 command points, and I'll take the Vindicator assassin to pick out them key characters that are buffing the Necrons and giving them the 5+ invulnerable saves and reanimations and all that jazz."
That's very fluffy, isn't it, really? Because that's what they would do, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And you're not punishing tournament players for predefining a list and then saying, "Oh, I've got a unit that's not doing much this turn." Okay. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. That's a nice little change. And obviously they can get and being paired with stuff more easier. Maybe we might see some more appearing again.
Yeah,